My name is Isabella Anderson, and I'm 32 years old. For my entire life, my parents told me I was adopted, a charity case they took in out of kindness. But 3 DNA tests revealed something that shattered their 25-year lie. I'm my father's only biological child, and the real son they've been protecting? He's not even related to Dad. Before I tell you how I exposed this deception at their anniversary party in front of 50 guests, please take a moment to like and subscribe. But only if you truly enjoy this story. I'd love to know where you're watching from and what time it is there. Let me take you back to where this all began. Growing up in the Anderson household meant understanding my place from day one. While my brother Ryan occupied the sprawling master suite with its own bathroom and walk-in closet, I slept in what used to be the storage room, barely large enough for a twin bed and a small dresser. Mom, or Victoria as I learned to think of her, would always remind me how grateful I should be for having a roof over my head at all. Birthday celebrations painted the clearest picture of our family dynamic. Ryan's birthdays were events, catered parties with hired entertainers, three-tier cakes, and guest lists that filled our backyard. Mine? A store-bought cake after dinner, maybe 5 people if I was lucky, and Victoria's constant reminder, "We're already doing so much for you, Isabella. Don't be greedy." The Christmas morning ritual never changed. Ryan would tear through mountains of presents, the latest gaming systems, designer clothes, expensive watches as he got older. I'd receive practical gifts, school supplies, basic clothes from discount stores, maybe a book if Dad remembered to slip something extra under the tree. "You should appreciate what you have," Victoria would say, watching Ryan unwrap his 20th gift. "Not every adopted child is this fortunate." Even family photos told the story. In the formal portraits lining our hallway, Ryan stood between our parents, their hands on his shoulders, proud smiles all around. I was always slightly to the side, like someone had remembered at the last moment to include me in the frame. Visitors would comment on how Ryan looked just like Dad. Victoria would beam and say, "Yes, he's definitely an Anderson." Then she'd glance at me and add, "Isabella is lucky we took her in." The discrimination only intensified as we entered our teens. When college applications rolled around, the difference became stark. Ryan received a college consultant, SAT tutors, and application fees for 15 schools. Victoria and Dad wrote him a blank check for any university he wanted. "Education is an investment in family legacy," Victoria declared at dinner, while I sat quietly calculating student loan interest rates on my phone. I had to beg for application fee waivers and spent nights writing scholarship essays at the public library because Ryan needed quiet to game in his room. When I got into State University with a partial academic scholarship, Victoria's response was cold. "Well, you should be grateful they're giving charity cases financial aid. We've already done enough raising you." Family gatherings were exercises in humiliation. Victoria would introduce us to relatives and friends the same way every time. "This is Ryan, our son. He's studying business at Princeton, following in Robert's footsteps." Then, gesturing vaguely in my direction, "And this is Isabella, our adopted daughter. She goes to State. We've been very generous taking her in and all." The family group chat excluded me entirely. I discovered it by accident when Dad's phone buzzed during dinner, showing messages in real family only. Ryan smirked when he saw me notice. "It's for planning family stuff," he said. "You know, blood family." Even my achievements were dismissed. When I made Dean's List, Victoria said nothing. When I landed an architecture internship, she reminded me not to get too ambitious. But when Ryan barely passed his classes? "He's finding himself. Anderson men are late bloomers." But everything changed when Aunt Margaret suggested something unexpected during her visit last spring. Aunt Margaret pulled me aside after witnessing another family dinner where I was ignored. "Isabella, we need to talk about your father's company," she said, her lawyer instincts clearly activated. "Anderson Real Estate Development is worth $50 million, and your name isn't anywhere in the succession planning." She showed me documents she'd reviewed as the company's legal counsel. Ryan had been added to the board of directors at 21. He'd been gifted shares on his 18th birthday. Property transfers showed Victoria had been systematically moving assets into trust funds, all in Ryan's name. Your father seems to think you're not entitled to any of it, Margaret said carefully, because you're adopted. But that's fine, I lied, my throat tight. I never expected anything. Margaret's eyes narrowed. Isabella, even legally adopted children have inheritance rights. But here's what's strange. I can't find your adoption papers in any of the company's legal files. Victoria handles all the family documents, and she's been very secretive about yours. The reality hit hard. Dad's company had developed half the commercial district downtown. The Anderson name opened doors everywhere in our city. Ryan was already networking at company events, being groomed as the heir apparent. He'd joke about it openly. Someone has to inherit the empire. Blood is everything in business. Meanwhile, I was working 2 jobs to pay for my textbooks, living in a studio apartment with 3 roommates. Victoria had made it clear after graduation. You're 22 now. Time to be independent. Ryan needs his space here while he learns the business. Margaret studied my face carefully. There's something not right here, Isabella. Legal documents don't just disappear. What if what they told you about being adopted isn't what you think? The isolation wasn't just financial, it was destroying every relationship in my life. Dad, who used to sneak me books and take me for ice cream, had grown distant over the years. Victoria's constant whispers had done their work. Robert, you need to focus on your real son. Isabella has to learn independence. We can't enable her forever. Now he barely looked at me during family dinners, as if eye contact might obligate him to care. My extended family had absorbed the narrative completely. At my cousin's wedding, I overheard my uncle telling someone, "That's Robert's adopted kid. Sweet of them to take her in, but she's not really family. They say she's becoming a bit entitled, expecting the same as their real son." The final blow came when my relationship with Marcus ended. We'd been together 2 years when his parents found out about my situation. His mother pulled him aside at a family barbecue. I could see them talking, her gestures toward me, his face changing. Later, he couldn't meet my eyes. My parents think it's complicated, dating someone without real family backing. They're worried about our future kids, not knowing your biological history and all. But I'm still me, I said, tears burning my eyes. I know, but family is important to them, to me. Real family. Even my father seemed to believe I was temporary. I heard him on the phone with his financial advisor. Just the one heir, yes. Ryan. The girl? No, she's not mine. She's not. Margaret watched all of this with growing concern. Why does Victoria work so hard to convince everyone you don't belong? She asked one day. What is she so afraid of? 2 weeks before my parents' 30th anniversary party, Victoria cornered me in the kitchen. She placed a thick document on the counter, a legal waiver of inheritance rights. Sign this, she said, her manicured nail tapping the signature line. It's time we made things official. What is this? I asked, though I could read the title clearly. Voluntary relinquishment of all claims to Anderson estate and assets. You're 32, Isabella, still hanging around, hoping for what? You're not blood. You never were. This protects Ryan's rightful inheritance. Her voice was ice. Sign it or find somewhere else to live by Monday. Dad walked in, saw the papers, and said nothing. His silence was deafening. Robert agrees, Victoria said smoothly. We've been more than generous. 25 years of food, shelter, education, such kindness to a stranger's child. But charity has limits. Ryan appeared in the doorway, smirking. Just sign it, Isabella. Stop being dramatic. You've gotten more than most foster kids dream of. My hands shook as I picked up the document. I need time to read this. You have until the anniversary party, Victoria said. We'll announce the future of Anderson Real Estate that night. Ryan will be named successor. You can sign publicly and show everyone you're grateful, or you can be excluded from our lives entirely. Your choice. That evening, Aunt Margaret called. Did Victoria threaten you? How did you know? She's been asking me about inheritance law. Isabella, listen carefully. Before you sign anything, get 3 independent DNA tests. Different labs. Rush them. Why would I? Trust me on this. 3 tests. And bring the results to the party. Promise me. The results would arrive just in time for their anniversary party. I had no idea they would change everything. The week before the party, tensions exploded. Victoria found me in Dad's study, looking at old photo albums. She slammed the book shut. Those aren't for you. They're family photos. Exactly. Family. She leaned close. You owe us everything. I owe you nothing. Every meal, every Christmas present, that college degree you're so proud of, all charity. Our charity. Ryan strutted in, waving rental agreements. Actually, I calculated what you owe us. 18 years of room and board, at market rates. About 300,000. Want to start paying? That's insane. Sign the papers, Victoria demanded. Make me. Her face flushed. You ungrateful. What are you scared of, Victoria? I kept my voice steady. Why does it matter so much that I sign? You little... She stopped herself, but I saw something flicker in her eyes. Fear? Just sign them. For everyone's sake. I had some tests done, I said quietly. The room went silent. Victoria's face drained of color. What tests? Ryan asked, confused. Medical tests. Interesting results. Victoria grabbed my arm. You had no right to test my own DNA? I pulled free. Why would that bother you? Dad walked in then, saw Victoria's grip marks on my arm. What's going on? Nothing, Victoria said quickly. Isabella was just leaving, weren't you? I looked at Dad directly. Ask your wife why she's so desperate for me to sign those papers. Ask her what she's hiding. Get out, Victoria hissed. See you at the party, I said calmly. All of you. As I left, I heard Victoria on the phone, voice panicked. We need to move everything faster. She knows something. The morning of the anniversary party, I sat in Margaret's office with 3 sealed envelopes. My hands trembled as I opened the first one. LabCorp. Probability of biological relationship between Isabella Anderson and Robert Anderson, 99.9%. Margaret read over my shoulder. Open the others. Quest Diagnostics, 99.9% match. GeneTech Solutions, 99.9% match. 3 labs, same result. This changes everything, Margaret said, her voice tight with controlled anger. You're Robert's biological daughter. You always were. But how? Why would they? We'll find out tonight. She pulled out her laptop. I've been investigating. Victoria was married before, did you know that? Sealed records, but I have connections. She showed me a marriage certificate. Victoria Smith married to James Mitchell, divorced 3 years before she married Dad. Notice the dates, Isabella, and look at this. A birth certificate appeared on screen. Ryan Mitchell, born 2 years before Victoria met my father. Ryan isn't Dad's son, I whispered. But you are. The only question is why Victoria convinced everyone otherwise. Margaret started preparing documents. I'll have everything ready. Dr. Jennifer Hayes from GeneTech will be on video standby to verify the results if needed. Should I warn Dad? No. Victoria's had 25 years to manipulate him. He needs to hear this publicly, where she can't twist it. That evening, I dressed carefully in my best outfit, a navy dress I'd bought secondhand but had tailored perfectly. I tucked the envelopes into my purse along with Margaret's documents. 50 guests were arriving at the Grandview Hotel's ballroom. Victoria had invited everyone important: business partners, society friends, extended family. She wanted witnesses to Ryan's coronation as heir. She was about to get witnesses to something very different. 3 hours before the party, Victoria made her final power play. She called a family meeting in the living room, Ryan and Dad already seated when I arrived. The inheritance papers lay on the coffee table like a threat. Tonight's announcement will set our family's future, Victoria began, diamond earrings catching the light. Ryan will be formally named as sole heir to Anderson Real Estate. Isabella, you'll sign these papers publicly, showing everyone you understand your place. My place? I remained standing. As someone we graciously raised despite no obligation, Ryan added. The media loves a grateful orphan story. Dad shifted uncomfortably but stayed silent. 25 years of conditioning showing. Victoria smiled coldly. I've already told the guests there will be two announcements: Ryan's promotion and your gratitude ceremony. What if I refuse? Then you'll be escorted out by security. I've already briefed them. She stood, smoothing her designer dress. You have no power here, Isabella. No legal standing, no blood claim, nothing. Just our charity, which ends tonight if you don't comply. Ryan laughed. God, just sign it. Stop pretending you matter. I looked at Dad. You're really okay with this? He wouldn't meet my eyes. Victoria knows best about family matters. Yes, Victoria said triumphantly. I do. I picked up the papers, pretending to study them. I'll make my decision at the party, publicly, like you want. Victoria's eyes narrowed. Don't try anything stupid. Wouldn't dream of it. I patted my purse, feeling the envelopes inside. I believe in truth, Victoria, don't you? Her face tightened. Be there at 8. Don't be late. In 3 hours, everyone would know the truth. The real question was, would they believe it? If you've ever been treated like an outsider in your own family, you know exactly how Isabella feels right now. The anniversary party is about to begin, and what happens next will shock everyone in that room. Before we continue, if this story resonates with you, please hit that like button. Your support helps these stories reach others who need to hear them. Now, let's see how Isabella turns the tables. An hour before leaving for the party, Margaret called with crucial information. Isabella, I've been collecting evidence for years. Did you know I own 30% of your father's company? Your grandfather insisted on it before he died, said someone needed to watch over Robert. Victoria doesn't know? She thinks I'm just the company lawyer, but I've been documenting everything. She paused. I have recordings, Isabella. Your phone picked up audio when you left it in the kitchen last Christmas. Victoria admitted things to Ryan when they thought they were alone. My heart raced. What kind of things? Listen to this. Through the phone, I heard Victoria's voice, wine-slurred but clear. 25 more years of this charade, Ryan. Once Isabella signs those papers, we're safe. No one can ever prove you're not Robert's son. The real daughter will never know what she gave up. Ryan's response chilled me. And Dad really believes Isabella's adopted? Men believe what's convenient. I made sure of that from day one. Margaret's voice returned. I have 12 recordings like this. I also had Dr. Jennifer Hayes on standby. She's one of the country's top geneticists. She's willing to verify any DNA results via video call tonight. Why are you helping me? Because your mother would have wanted me to. She paused. Your real mother. Robert's first wife, Sarah. She died when you were 2. Victoria appeared 6 months later with Ryan, claiming to be a widow. She convinced your grief-stricken father that you needed a mother figure, that raising you alone while building his company would be impossible. So she married him for the money? She married him for the empire, and she's been stealing your birthright ever since. Tonight, we take it back. Margaret had one more revelation before the party. Check your father's study tonight, the old photo albums, look at your baby pictures versus Ryan's. I'd never been allowed to look closely before, but I remembered something odd. In my earliest photos, I was in the Anderson family home, in the nursery Dad had built himself. Ryan's baby photos showed a different house entirely, cheaper furniture, different wallpaper. There's more, Margaret continued. Ryan's birth certificate has discrepancies. The hospital listed? It was 3 states away. Why would Victoria give birth there unless she was hiding something? Or hiding from someone, I murmured, pieces clicking together. I tracked down Victoria's ex-husband, James Mitchell. He's been looking for his son for 25 years. Victoria disappeared when Ryan was 3, violated custody agreements, changed their names. My mind reeled. She kidnapped her own son? And inserted him into your family by convincing your father you needed a mother. The timeline's perfect. Your mom dies. Victoria appears with a sob story about being a widow with a young son. Your dad's vulnerable and grieving with a toddler to raise alone. Wait, if Ryan was born when mom was still alive, that means Victoria was never pregnant during her marriage to your father. Every story about Ryan being born after they married? Lies. She just moved the dates around, destroyed old documents, created new ones. But birth certificates, social security, she's been forging documents for decades, Isabella. Practice makes perfect. I thought about the party ahead. Ryan doesn't know, does he? About his real father? No. He's a victim too, in a way. But he chose to embrace the lie, to benefit from it. That's on him. 3 hours until showtime. Make them count. The Grandview Hotel's ballroom glittered with crystal chandeliers and white roses. 50 of the city's most influential people mingled with champagne, celebrating my parents' perfect marriage. I stood near the entrance, watching Victoria work the room in her crimson designer gown, playing the devoted wife and mother. Ladies and gentlemen, Victoria clinked her glass, commanding attention. Thank you for joining us on this special night. 30 years ago, I became Mrs. Robert Anderson, and our family began its beautiful journey. She gestured to Ryan, who stood beaming in his custom suit. Our son, Ryan Anderson, the pride of our lives, the future of Anderson Real Estate. The crowd applauded warmly. Then her gaze found me. We've also been blessed with the opportunity to show true Christian charity. As many of you know, we took in a child who needed a home. Isabella, where are you? Every eye turned to me. I stepped forward, keeping my expression neutral. Yes, there she is, our little charity project. Victoria's smile was razor sharp. It takes special people to raise someone else's child as their own. We've given Isabella everything: education, shelter, opportunities she never would have had otherwise. Murmurs of approval rippled through the crowd. How generous, someone whispered. So selfless. My uncle called out, You should be proud, Victoria. Not everyone would take on such a burden. Oh, it hasn't been easy, Victoria continued, fake sympathy dripping from every word. But we believe in giving back, even when that giving isn't appreciated as it should be. Ryan raised his glass. To my parents, who showed me that real family isn't about charity cases, it's about blood. The crowd laughed and toasted. I remained still, hands steady on my purse. Victoria wasn't done with her performance. She motioned for Ryan to join her at the microphone. Before dinner, we have 2 important announcements. Ryan, would you like to share your news? Ryan strutted to the podium, confidence radiating. As of Monday, I'll be taking over as Executive Vice President of Anderson Real Estate. Dad's ready to start stepping back, and it's time for the next generation, the real Anderson generation, to lead. Applause thundered through the room. Dad stood awkwardly, managing a weak smile as business partners shook his hand, congratulating him on his smart succession planning. And now, Victoria's voice cut through the noise, Isabella has something she'd like to say. Don't you, dear? The room fell silent. 50 pairs of eyes watched me walk to the front, my heels clicking against marble. Victoria held out the inheritance waiver papers, her triumph barely concealed. Isabella has graciously agreed to formally acknowledge Ryan's rightful position as sole heir, Victoria announced. Haven't you? Someone in the crowd whispered, Finally, she's accepting reality. Ryan smirked. It's about time you showed some gratitude. Go ahead, Isabella. Thank our parents for their generosity all these years. Tell everyone how lucky you've been. Yes, Victoria added, pushing the papers toward me. Sign them now, in front of everyone, so there's no confusion about where you stand in this family. My cousin's wife said loudly enough for all to hear. At least she knows her place. I took the papers, scanning the room. Margaret stood near the back, giving me the slightest nod. Dad sat at the head table staring at his champagne. Before I sign anything, I said clearly into the microphone, I have something to share. Victoria's smile faltered for just a second. The ballroom held its breath as I stood at the podium, the inheritance papers in one hand. Victoria's fingers twitched toward the microphone, but I stepped back, maintaining control. I do have something to say about family and blood, I began, my voice carrying clearly through the speakers. About truth and lies, about who really belongs in the Anderson family. Isabella, Victoria warned, her composure cracking. Don't embarrass yourself. Embarrass myself? I reached into my purse slowly, deliberately. I think we're past that, Victoria. Ryan started toward the stage. Just sign the damn papers. Sit down, Ryan. My tone stopped him cold. Something in my voice, the absolute certainty, made him hesitate. The crowd stirred uneasily. This wasn't the grateful submission they'd expected. Phone cameras began appearing as guests sensed drama unfolding. Margaret moved closer to the stage, her phone ready. Dad finally looked up, confusion clouding his features. For 25 years, I continued, I've been told I was adopted. A charity case, not real family. I pulled out the first envelope. So I decided to find out the truth about my biological family. Victoria's face went white. You had no right to test my own DNA? I held up the envelope so everyone could see the LabCorp logo. Why would that frighten you, Victoria? If I'm really adopted, what difference would it make? This is inappropriate, Victoria hissed, reaching for the microphone. What's inappropriate, I said, stepping away from her grasp, is lying to a child for 25 years about who they really are. The room was dead silent now, every phone recording, every eye focused on the envelope in my hand. Shall we see what the tests revealed? I opened the first envelope with steady hands, though my heart hammered against my ribs. The LabCorp letterhead was visible to everyone as I held it up. According to LabCorp, I read clearly, the probability of biological relationship between Isabella Anderson and Robert Anderson is 99.9%. Gasps erupted across the ballroom. Someone dropped a champagne glass, the crash punctuating the shock. That's impossible! Victoria lunged for the microphone, but Margaret had already moved to block her. Those results are fake! I'm Robert Anderson's biological daughter, I continued, looking directly at my father. His face had gone ashen, his hands gripping the table. No, 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 Ryan shouted. This is bullshit. I'm the real son. The crowd exploded in whispers. She's actually his daughter? But they said she was adopted. What's going on? My uncle stood up, voice booming. This has to be a mistake. There's no mistake, I said calmly. But perhaps you'd like to see the second test. Victoria tried again to grab the papers from my hands. Security! Remove her! But the security guards stood frozen, as captivated as everyone else. One was actively recording on his phone. Dad? I looked at Robert. Do you want to know the truth? He stood slowly, his voice barely audible. Isabella, your daughter, your biological daughter. I always have been. Victoria's mask finally cracked completely. Robert, don't listen to her. She's lying. She's always been jealous of Ryan. Then let's see the other results, Margaret called out from beside the stage. If Isabella's lying, prove it. The room held its breath as I reached for the second envelope. I opened the second envelope, Quest Diagnostics logo clear for all to see. Independent Lab Number 2. Probability of biological relationship between Isabella Anderson and Robert Anderson. 99.9%. This is a setup! Victoria's voice cracked with desperation. Would you like to see the third test? I didn't wait for an answer, opening the GeneTech Solutions envelope. Same result, 99.9%. 3 independent labs, 3 identical conclusions. Margaret stepped forward with her phone. I have Dr. Jennifer Hayes from GeneTech on video call. Doctor, can you verify these results? The phone screen projected onto the ballroom's presentation screen, a last-minute setup Margaret had arranged. Dr. Hayes appeared, professional and composed. I can confirm that Isabella Anderson submitted samples to our lab. The results are authentic and verified. She is definitively Robert Anderson's biological daughter. Thank you, Doctor. I turned back to the stunned audience. 3 independent labs. Same result. I'm Robert Anderson's daughter. Dad stumbled forward, tears streaming down his face. Isabella! My God! What have I done? You were lied to, I said gently. We both were. Ryan grabbed the microphone. So what? Even if you're his daughter, I'm still his son. We're both his kids. Are you? I asked quietly. The room went still again. What do you mean? Ryan's voice wavered. Victoria tried to run for the exit, but the crowd had pressed in, blocking her path. Everyone wanted to hear what came next. But wait, someone called out. What about Ryan? I looked at my father, then at Ryan, then finally at Victoria's terrified face. Should we test Ryan's DNA too? Or would you like to tell everyone the truth, Victoria? Her silence was deafening. Margaret stepped to the microphone with a folder. Since Victoria won't speak, I will. Ryan Mitchell, yes, Mitchell, not Anderson, was born 2 years before Victoria ever met Robert. That's a lie, Ryan shouted, but his voice cracked with uncertainty. Margaret displayed a birth certificate on the screen. Ryan Mitchell, born March 15, 1996. Mother, Victoria Mitchell. Father, James Mitchell. This is from the state of Ohio records. The crowd erupted. He's not Robert's son? She brought another man's child? This is insane. Your maiden name, I said to Victoria. Ryan carries your first husband's name, not Dad's. Robert collapsed into a chair. 25 years. Ryan isn't mine? Dad, that's not true, Ryan pleaded. Tell them it's not true. But Victoria stood frozen, her carefully constructed world crumbling. Margaret continued ruthlessly. Victoria was married to James Mitchell. She kidnapped Ryan when he was 3, violated custody agreements, and disappeared. She showed up in Robert's life 6 months after his first wife died, claiming to be a widow. My mother, I said quietly. My real mother, who died when I was 2. The pieces clicked audibly for the guests. She married him for the money. She stole the real daughter's inheritance. That poor child, raised as an outsider in her own home. Ryan stared at Victoria in horror. Mom? Tell them they're wrong. Victoria's voice came out as a whisper. I did it for you, Ryan. For us. The admission sent shockwaves through the room. Phones captured every second as society's most respected family imploded before their eyes. Ryan Mitchell, I said clearly. Your maiden name, Mom. Not Anderson, never Anderson. Margaret wasn't finished. She pulled out more documents, each one another nail in Victoria's coffin. These are the adoption papers Victoria claimed existed for Isabella. She held them up. Completely forged. The agency listed doesn't exist. The dates don't match. The signatures are fabricated. How long have you known? Dad asked Margaret, his voice broken. I suspected for years, but Isabella's DNA tests gave me the proof I needed to dig deeper. Margaret clicked her phone, and an audio recording filled the ballroom. Victoria's voice, clear and damning. 25 more years of this charade, Ryan. Once Isabella signs those papers, we're safe. No one can ever prove you're not Robert's son. The real daughter will never know what she gave up. Ryan's recorded response. And Dad really believes Isabella's adopted? Victoria again. Men believe what's convenient. I made sure of that from day one. The recording ended. The silence was deafening. 25 years of lies, Victoria. Why? Dad's voice cracked with anguish. Victoria lifted her chin, a last attempt at defiance. Your first wife was dead. You had money, status, everything I wanted for my son. Why should he grow up poor when you needed a family anyway? So you stole my daughter's identity? Robert stood, rage finally breaking through his shock. You made me believe my own child wasn't mine. She looked too much like her mother, Victoria spat. You were vulnerable, grieving. It was easy to convince you she was adopted, that taking her in was the charitable thing to do. Someone in the crowd shouted, "Call the police!" Already done, Margaret announced. Fraud, identity theft, forgery, parental kidnapping, the list is extensive. Dad, there's more you need to know, I said quietly. The room is in complete chaos. Phones are recording, guests are gasping, and Victoria's face has gone white. But Isabella isn't done yet. If you're feeling the satisfaction of seeing truth finally come to light, please share this story with someone who needs to hear it. And comment below. What would you do in Isabella's position? Now, let's see how she handles the aftermath. Margaret took control with the authority of someone who'd been preparing for this moment. As the family lawyer and a 30% stakeholder in Anderson Real Estate, I'm filing emergency injunctions tonight. All asset transfers to Ryan are frozen pending investigation. You can't do that, Victoria shrieked. I can and I will. Fraud voids all contracts. Margaret's voice was steel. Every property transfer, every stock gift, every trust fund, all obtained through deception. The crowd parted as two police officers entered the ballroom. Margaret had indeed called them. Additionally, Margaret continued, addressing the room, criminal charges will be filed Monday morning. 25 years of fraud, forgery, and parental kidnapping carry serious consequences. Ryan stood frozen, his world shattered. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. Ignorance isn't innocence, Margaret replied. You benefited from fraud. You participated in the emotional abuse of Isabella. You signed documents claiming to be Robert's son. Because I thought I was. The courts will determine your culpability. Margaret turned to the officers. Victoria Anderson has violated custody orders from Ohio. James Mitchell has been searching for his son for 25 years. My father? Ryan's voice broke. My real father is alive? Victoria grabbed Ryan's arm. Don't listen to them. You're an Anderson. No, Robert said firmly, standing tall for the first time all evening. He's not. He never was. The officers approached Victoria. Ma'am, we need you to come with us for questioning. This is ridiculous! But her protests fell on deaf ears. As the family lawyer, I'm filing papers Monday morning, Margaret announced to the stunned crowd. The professionalism in her voice left no room for doubt. Justice would be served through proper channels. My father stood before the crowd, shoulders shaking, decades of manipulation finally clear. He took the microphone with trembling hands, facing the 50 witnesses to his family's destruction. Isabella, he began, his voice breaking. My daughter, my actual daughter. He turned to me, tears streaming freely. I failed you. For 25 years, I failed you. Dad! No, let me say this. Publicly. Like the humiliation you endured should have been public. He faced the crowd. I allowed my wife to convince me that my own child wasn't mine. I stood by while she was treated as less than, as an outsider, as charity. The room was silent, recording every word of his confession. I'm divorcing Victoria immediately, he announced, and Isabella will receive everything that was stolen from her, her birthright, her inheritance, her place as my daughter and heir to Anderson Real Estate. You can't, Ryan shouted. I've worked for that company. You've played at working, Robert corrected coldly. While Isabella built her own career despite having every door closed to her. She's an accomplished architect who succeeded without the Anderson name. You couldn't even pass college with every advantage. He turned back to me. Isabella, my daughter, I'm so sorry. I know I can't undo 25 years of pain, but I can make things right going forward. This is happening too fast, someone murmured. 25 years was too slow, Robert responded. My daughter was robbed of her childhood, her identity, her family. The least I can do is acknowledge her publicly, immediately. He walked over and embraced me for the first time in years, like a father should, protective, proud, and genuinely loving. You're an Anderson. You always were. The police officers flanked Victoria as she was escorted toward the ballroom exit. The crowd parted like the Red Sea, phones still recording, no one offering comfort or support to the woman they'd admired minutes ago. Ryan, Victoria called desperately, don't let them do this. But Ryan stood paralyzed, his entire identity shattered. My name isn't even Anderson. You have 1 hour to pack your things, Robert told them both, his voice firm. Security will supervise. Take only what you brought into this marriage. That's nothing, Victoria screeched. I gave you 30 years. You gave me lies. You stole my daughter's life. Robert's composure was remarkable. 1 hour. The business partners who'd congratulated Ryan earlier now avoided eye contact. His Princeton connections, the society friends, the country club members, all stepping back, distancing themselves from the scandal. This isn't over, Victoria shouted as the officers guided her out. I'll fight this. Please do, Margaret called after her. I have 25 years of evidence waiting. Ryan looked at me, something breaking in his eyes. You knew? At the house, when you said you had tests done? I knew I was Dad's daughter. I didn't know you weren't his son until tonight. I... He looked around the room, seeing disgust and pity in equal measure. This is your fault. You ruined everything. No, Dad said firmly. Your mother ruined everything the day she decided to build a life on lies. You're just collateral damage. Ryan fled the ballroom, pushing through the crowd. No one followed. I stood at the podium, maintaining my dignity despite the chaos. But the real consequences were just beginning. Within 48 hours, the video had gone viral. Anderson family DNA bombshell trending across social media. The footage of Victoria's admission shared millions of times. Every society blog, every business publication, every local news outlet ran the story. Victoria's employer, a prestigious law firm where she'd worked as a paralegal, released a statement. Given the serious nature of the fraud allegations, Victoria Mitchell's employment has been terminated effective immediately. Her professional reputation, built on the Anderson name, evaporated overnight. Ryan faced his own reckoning. Princeton's Alumni Association revoked his membership pending investigation into application fraud. Had he claimed to be Robert Anderson's son for admission preferences? His investment banking job disappeared when the firm discovered he'd been hired as Robert Anderson's heir. The country club canceled his membership. He leveraged a name that wasn't his, one former colleague told reporters. Every deal, every connection, every opportunity, all based on being an Anderson. The social fallout was swift and merciless. The same people who'd praised Victoria's generosity in raising an adopted child now shared stories of her cruelty. I always thought something was off, claimed one society matron who'd laughed at Victoria's jokes about her charity case. My phone buzzed with messages from relatives who'd ignored me for years. We're so sorry. We had no idea. Your family, you always were. I deleted them all. But the most satisfying vindication came from an unexpected source. 3 of Dad's employees came forward, admitting Victoria had tried to convince them I was unstable and shouldn't be allowed near the company. She was systematic, one revealed, always planting doubts about Isabella, making sure no one would question Ryan's inheritance. Within 48 hours, everyone in town knew the truth. Monday morning, Margaret filed the paperwork as promised. The charges were extensive: fraud, forgery, identity theft, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and violation of interstate custody orders. The district attorney, sensing a high-profile case, assigned their best prosecutor. The scope of deception is staggering, the DA announced at a press conference. Forged adoption documents, falsified birth records, 25 years of systematic fraud. We're seeking full prosecution. The asset recovery began immediately. $2 million in improperly transferred funds were frozen. Properties Victoria had put in Ryan's name were placed under legal hold. the trust funds, the investment accounts, the cars, all subjected to forensic accounting. Every penny stolen from Isabella Anderson will be returned, Margaret told reporters, with interest. Victoria's bail was set at $500,000, money she didn't have without access to the frozen accounts. She remained in custody, her designer clothes replaced with orange jumpsuit. Ryan faced his own legal troubles. While he hadn't known about the deception initially, he'd signed documents as Robert's son for financial gain after turning 18. Ignorance isn't a defense when you're benefiting from fraud, the prosecutor explained. James Mitchell, Ryan's biological father, filed for immediate custody hearings. "My son was stolen from me," he said in his statement. "I've been searching for 25 years." The court moved swiftly. Within a month, Victoria was convicted on multiple counts. The judge showed no leniency. "You stole a child's identity, manipulated a grieving widower, and built an empire on lies. Your actions warrant the maximum sentence." "The court doesn't look kindly on 25 years of fraud," Margaret observed with satisfaction. The financial restitution was ordered. Everything Victoria had taken would be returned to its rightful owner. The family restructuring began slowly, painfully. Dad and I started with weekly dinners at quiet restaurants, away from the gossip and stares. He'd aged 10 years in 10 days, the weight of his failure etched in new lines around his eyes. "I remember when you were born," he said one evening. "You looked exactly like your mother." Victoria said that's why I was so distant, that I was projecting grief. I believed her. She was good at manipulation. "I should have protected you. A father should know his own child." He pushed food around his plate. "Can you ever forgive me?" "We can't change the past, but we can build something new." Extended family members reached out with apologies. Aunt Margaret became our bridge, the one who'd believed in truth when everyone else accepted lies. Other relatives were kept at arm's length. Trust, once broken, required time to rebuild. Ryan attempted contact through a lawyer 3 weeks later. He wanted to talk things through, to understand what happened. I refused. He'd chosen to benefit from my suffering, to mock my pain, to demand I be grateful for crumbs. That was his choice. Margaret delivered the message. "Isabella has no interest in contact. You participated in her abuse for personal gain. That decision has consequences." The revelation about Ryan's biological father added another layer. James Mitchell was a decent man, a teacher who'd spent decades searching for his son. Ryan now faced reconciling with a father he'd never known existed while losing the only father he'd known. He chose to benefit from the lie. That was his choice, I told Margaret when she updated me. Some bridges, once burned, couldn't be rebuilt. And that was okay. Victoria tried everything from prison, letters proclaiming her love, claiming she'd raised me as her own. I returned them unopened. Phone calls begging for forgiveness. I had them blocked. Messages through her lawyer about how she'd meant well. Margaret shut them down. "Forgiveness doesn't mean access to my life," I told my therapist during one of our sessions. Dr. Martinez nodded. "You're setting healthy boundaries after decades of abuse. That's remarkable progress." The no-contact order was made permanent after Victoria's conviction. She was legally barred from approaching me, contacting me, or speaking about me publicly. When she violated it by giving a jailhouse interview claiming I'd destroyed the family, another year was added to her sentence. "She still doesn't accept responsibility," Dad observed. "Everything is someone else's fault." That's her pattern, and it's not my problem anymore. The therapy was crucial. 25 years of gaslighting doesn't disappear overnight. I had to relearn my own history, separate truth from decades of lies. Some days were harder than others, grieving the childhood I should have had, the relationship with my father we'd lost. "You survived extraordinary psychological abuse," Dr. Martinez reminded me. "You maintained your sense of self despite systematic attempts to erase it. That's not just resilience, it's remarkable." I learned to recognize Victoria's tactics in others, to spot manipulation before it took root. The hypervigilance would fade with time, but the knowledge remained. I deserved respect, truth, and genuine love. When Victoria's sister reached out asking me to consider reconciliation for family unity, I responded simply, Victoria chose deception over family. I choose truth and peace. This boundary is non-negotiable. Some doors once closed should stay that way. Rebuilding with Dad required careful navigation. We established rules from the start. Weekly dinners, yes, but no discussion of Victoria or Ryan unless necessary. No trying to fast forward through 25 years of damage. No pretending everything was suddenly perfect. We can't get back 25 years, but we can start fresh, I told him at our first official father-daughter dinner. He nodded, tears threatening. I want to earn the right to be your father again. We started family therapy together, unpacking the years of manipulation. Dr. Thompson helped Dad understand how Victoria had weaponized his grief, his trust, his love for his late wife. She isolated you from Isabella by suggesting resemblance to your first wife was traumatic, Dr. Thompson explained. Classic manipulation, using your pain against your own child. The sessions were difficult. Dad had to confront his passivity, his choice to believe convenient lies over fighting for truth. I had to process anger while allowing room for healing. I'm not asking for instant forgiveness, Dad said during one session. I'm asking for the chance to be the father you deserved. We built new traditions. Sunday coffee where we discussed architecture and real estate, professional interests we'd never known we shared. He started attending my project presentations, proud of the career I'd built without the Anderson name's advantages. You're brilliant, he said after one presentation. You succeeded despite everything I failed to give you. I succeeded despite everything Victoria stole, I corrected. You were a victim too. The relationship would never be what it could have been, but it was becoming something real, built on truth, not lies. Weekly dinners became twice weekly. Professional respect grew into genuine affection. We were both in therapy, both committed to healing. That was enough. 6 months later, I stood in my new office at Anderson Real Estate, not as the charity case, but as Chief Design Officer, a position created specifically for my expertise. The nameplate read Isabella Anderson, and for the first time in my life, I felt the weight of my true identity. The journey taught me invaluable lessons. Blood makes you related, but loyalty makes you family. Truth has a way of surfacing, no matter how deep the lies are buried. And sometimes, the family we choose, like Aunt Margaret who fought for me, matters more than the family we're born into. Standing up for truth isn't about revenge, it's about justice. I didn't destroy Victoria's life. She built it on a foundation of lies that inevitably collapsed. I simply refused to be buried in the rubble. The money recovered, the inheritance restored, these were just corrections to a ledger. The real victory was reclaiming my identity, my worth, my place in the world. No amount of gaslighting could erase who I truly was. For anyone trapped in a toxic family dynamic, being told you're ungrateful, unworthy, or unwanted, remember this: your truth matters. Document everything. Seek allies like I found in Margaret. And never let anyone convince you that standing up for yourself is wrong. Boundaries aren't walls. They're property lines that define where your self-respect begins. I lost 25 years to someone else's lies, but I refuse to lose one more day. Blood makes you related, but loyalty makes you family. I tell people who ask about my story. And I've built a family of chosen loyalty, truth, and mutual respect. The Anderson name is mine by birth, but I've earned it through survival. Thank you for witnessing my journey to truth. If you've ever been gaslit by family or made to feel less than, remember, your worth isn't determined by their lies. DNA doesn't lie, but people do. What would you have done differently? Share your thoughts below. If this story touched you, please subscribe for more stories of truth triumphing over deception. And remember, sometimes the family we choose is stronger than the family we're born into.